Hey everybody, it's Small Town Critic here. Just wanted to give you my review for Frozen. Frozen 2, I should say. Frozen 2. The director for that is Chris Buck, who also directed the first one, along with Jennifer Lee. Both of them have directing credits. The writer was Jennifer Lee, who's also done a lot of other Frozen type of things. She did the first movie. She did the story, I should say. She did Frozen Fever and Olaf's Adventure. So she has a lot of knowledge about this particular environment, with these characters, with the background. So she's really good to be writing this. And the voice actresses are, or I should say voice actors, Kristen Bell, Idina Menzel. I don't know, I probably pronounced it about just as well as John Travolta did. And the other one is Josh Gad, who plays Olaf. So, what did I think of Frozen 2? Well, like most sequels, Frozen 2 just is not as good as the original movie. There's always a little bit, it's always hard to catch lightning in a bottle. And I think, again, it is harder with this particular movie as well, too. We're familiar with the characters, and there's not a lot different that happens in this particular movie, which is something I think with a sequel you need to branch out a little bit. In some sense, I find it interesting. This movie is, you could clarify it as a sequel slash prequel, and that a lot of the stuff they talk about in this particular movie comes from the background of Elsa and Anna. So that's something to think about too. I thought that was, I know it's a sequel, but I mean, you talk about a lot of events that happened prior to them, so you could say it's a prequel too. I don't know, but it's really a sequel. I know I'm trying to be confusing. Like I said, the story plot just was pretty benign. This is actually it would have been a better straight to DVD movie, or straight to VHS from my genre. You can tell how old I am. And so, yeah, I definitely say this is a direct to DVD movie. You know, it's amazing that's made $130 million as of this taping. And it shouldn't surprise me, because when I was at the theater, there was a ton of people, and the kids loved it. So, like I said, if you're a grandparent or a parent and your kid wants to go to it, it's a solid movie. The kids loved it. They really loved Olaf. Every time he was on screen, kids were laughing. You know, this time around, I found Olaf to be a lot more tiring than I did in the first movie. His jokes seemed to be more cringeworthy and not as adorable. You know, again, I think you lose that sort of that nice little flavor, and when you get to know characters, you sort of can forgive them, and this is why this movie just didn't really do anything for me. Now, that being said, the story's solid, and in a couple minutes after I give you my rating, we'll talk about what we could do to make the movie better. But it's got a solid characters, it's got a solid plot. There's no villain in this movie, which is sort of odd especially for a Disney movie, but they make it work. And so, as a parent, as someone who's might just be going along, the story's not going to bore you to tears. It's not a wonderful story, but it won't bore you to tears. So again, if you have some kids, they're going to love to see this movie. If you're going along, just know that it's an okay movie. It's pretty decent. But compared to a lot of the stuff I've seen over this particular year, I'd give it a B minus. So again, B minus. So now is the part of the video where we talk about how do we make Frozen 2 better. And to better talk about how we do that, I think it's important to talk about the theme. Now, most good and excellent movies and stories in general have a theme to them. So an overarching idea that sort of ties the whole story together. And this isn't really a spoiler, but just in case you don't want to know about the theme, then I'd probably stop the video and watch the movie before you come back, so we can discuss the theme. But the theme of the movie is change. You know, at the beginning of the movie, they talk, the characters are all saying how much they are excited that nothing changes, that everything doesn't change. Well, you know, as a viewer, that something's going to change over the period. And I think change is a wonderful theme to talk about, because that's something that we all, each one of us, everyone who watches this video, who's alive, is going to experience change at some point. So stuff is not going to stay the same as it has in the past. That's just life. All good things come to an end. All bad things come to an end. So change is as much of being human as breathing air. So I was really happy that they had this theme. Now the part that was, the part that was hard about this particular theme, I was actually pretty excited when they started this because I was thinking they would go somewhere with this. But the change that they do, they pay lip service to the theme, meaning they don't go very much in depth. What I think would have been better is if they would have dived into detail, like by having one of the main characters experience a big change with their own personal qualities or something like that. Maybe make Elsa more, she was very much to herself, or something that she would change from the beginning of the film to the end. They don't have that type of thing in the film. There's no real big change between any of the major characters. Internal change, or how they act and stuff like that. They're the same characters at the beginning of the movie as they were at the end, and so that's why I think if they would have taken a chance. And I know the hard part of that is when you take a chance on a character, you change something that people are used to and what people love. We see this with The Last Jedi, how much Rian Johnson didn't help, or he took the characters in a really different direction than what we were used to. And I'll be the first, I did not like that. I did not appreciate that. I think could have been ways that he could have not used a sledgehammer to tell us this sort of change in characters. And I don't think he actually showed a lot of change from beginning to end for each of the characters. And I think he just did change for change's sake. But getting back to my point, so I think if in Frozen they would have taken one of the characters and had them change over the whole course of the movie, not just like their situation, such as they went from point A to point B, or they live in point A and they live in point B, but something internally about them. Something about the makeup of that character. And if they could have made that stick, I think this would have been a very good movie. A lot better than the B-. And again, it's not a bad movie, but this could have been an awesome movie. This could have been a grand movie. And I know some criticism to this particular theory that I'm talking about is they're like, well, Paul, this is just a kids movie. There's been a lot of profound kids movies. I mean, you could take a look at the first Frozen and you could see how big of a cultural impact it had on it. And I think it's because of how Elsa changed from the beginning of the movie to the end, how her personality sort of changed, sort of that change of being very self-assertive about knowing who she was and accepting herself, Let It Go. I mean, it was is a song that helps sort of fuel that change of the character from point A to point B. You don't get that type of song or experience in this movie. And like I said, I think if they would have done something like that, I think this Frozen 2 would have been a lot better. Not that it's not going to make a lot of money, but they played it safe, and I think to the movie's detriment. Well, everybody, I hope you liked my review of Frozen 2. Take a look at it, see what you think of it, see what you think of if you like the theme or not, or what else you think what could be done. Maybe you think it's the perfect movie, but what do you think could be done to make the movie better as well too? So, if you haven't already subscribed, hit a thumbs up on there to let people know to take a look at us, or send it out to some friends too and see what their opinion is on Frozen 2. Well, I hope to see you next week with my next movie review. The hard part about this time is there's so many good movies to review right now, and so I have to really hit or pick which ones I'm going to do because of my job. Well, you guys take care. Again, have a happy Thanksgiving. If you have kids, I bet you'll be going seeing Frozen 2. Take care.